The views and opinions on the following program are not necessarily those of the staff and management of WMTR.
You are listening to the 65th Hour, Mondays with Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions. Welcome to my live show every Monday, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. right here on WMTR 1250 a.m. Today, my friends, I want to introduce myself to you and why I'm so passionate and on fire to share with you this critical and valuable information about the next stage of your vibrant years and how we together can maximize them by you having the right information and knowledge to make the most enlightened and educated decision concerning the next journey in your life. Over the course of the show, we will be discussing a number of very valuable and beneficial topics to help you ease your stress relating to health and financial issues by having the best sources and information available to you on each of these topics. Starting this week, we will also open up a Q&A where people can call in. We will then choose the best of these questions to help benefit and educate you on all of these concerns in each of these categories. My friends listening here tonight, my name is Theodore Tracey. I am Senior Vice President and Managing Partner of Federal National Funding. I have been in the medical, health, and financial industry for over 20 years. I have an extensive range of experiences which my practice focuses on, such as helping families deal with financial burdens when one enters a nursing home or assisted living facility. I am also covering subjects such as Medicare, financial issues and temporary care, advising clients on final stage planning, also crisis Medicaid long-term care services, long-term care insurance, veteran benefit entitlements, and then, my friends, we go all the way to real estate finance, property casualty insurance, and life insurance. It doesn't stop there. My passion for what I do is what gets me up in the morning. I have also been conducting educational workshops concerning senior veteran benefits, Medicare temporary care, and Medicaid long-term care. One of my passions, my friends, is to educate the senior community about all of the government benefit issues when a family member has a need for long-term care. Now more than ever, this information needs to be shared with all of you. Due to the extensive amount of changes that are occurring right before our eyes concerning all these matters, and even more important, where all your children, friends, and family need to be more aware to prepare properly for the next stage for their loved one's life, including their own. There is a lot involved to all of this in the early stages before it becomes staggering and very stressful. That is why I'm here to talk to all of you tonight, so we can follow up face to face and sit down individually so I can go over with you in detail everything you need to be comfortable with moving forward. This is my goal for all of you and everyone you know in your life. Tonight's topic will be caretaking for seniors. In the following weeks, topics such as little-known benefits for senior veterans, Medicaid, final stage planning, home, car, mortgage, and life insurance, Social Security benefit options, senior placement, relocation, senior independence, nursing care, and so much more. My friends, I would now like to really dig into our topic for this evening, which is caretaking for seniors. I would now like to introduce to you my producer, Miss Dianne Wesley. The lines are open. We have questions coming in, and that call-in number is 973-267-9687. Once again, that call-in number, 973-267-9687. Dianne, how are you doing this evening?
I am fantabulous. I can't believe we've come up to our second show already.
Yes.
And we've been so well received. Thank you all who have, gotten in touch, called in later. And what's the best too? We're now getting emails. We have emails coming in, Theo. And there was a question, which I think is going to benefit all of our listeners here tonight. And that is, what is long-term care?
Okay. What long-term care is any chronic or disabling condition that requires caretaking or constant supervision? So that would include if one goes through, having a stroke, or if they actually fall down. It's any really disabling condition or chronic condition that will require constant supervision and where an individual would need assistance.
And you mentioned there were 3 different ways to approach this.
Yes. Well, definitely what we're finding right now is that the positive thing is that we're living longer. Okay. Right now, just to, educate our audience, right now there are 40 million Americans over the age of 65.
That's a lot.
Okay. By the year 2040, there will be 80 million Americans over 65. So as you see, we're living longer. And as a result of that, we at some point will require some long-term care assistance. Statistically, 75%, I know I just mentioned that large number to you, but 75% of that number will require some kind of care.
Now, is that going to be year after year? You're talking about how many years is it usually?
I'm speaking about that out of that 40 million Americans over the age of 65, 75% of that number will require some form of assistance. And what we really have to look into is that 50% will require a minimum of 1 year. 50% of that number will require a minimum of 1 year. And keep in mind, when getting back to the cost, that 1 year of cost, anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000.
That's a lot. That's staggering.
Absolutely. And also, too, the fact is 20% of that number that I shared with you will require 5 years of assistance. Now, what does that equate to? Okay, at $10,000 per month, $120,000 per year over a 5-year period, you're looking at $600,000 in terms of cost for long-term care over a 5-year period.
And most people don't have that in their back pocket.
Exactly. Most people don't have that income in terms of $10,000 per month to pay that type of cost.
Right.
So what they're forced to do now, because they do not have that income, they're forced to look at their assets, whether it be their retirement accounts, their savings accounts, checking accounts, things of that nature, because most of us do not have that income on a monthly basis to handle those substantial costs.
And isn't that a big problem because you can't anticipate if you're going to get sick? So if you haven't been taking care of it or found an alternative, like we were talking about that before, that you had alternatives. And I think later on in the show we'll get into that more.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the fact of the matter is there's a terribly expensive cost of care when it comes to long-term care, whether it be, and there's different aspects of that, which I would like to go over today. You have different types of long-term care services are home health aid attendant. Also, we have assisted living. Another form of long-term care services is a nursing home. So you have those different aspects. And when you're speaking about a home health attendant, roughly the cost of that can run, depending on your source, can run anywhere from $19 to $38 per hour.
And they're not there 24/7. They're only there for a few hours a day, correct?
Well, it really depends on that individual's needs. So when prescribed by their physician, that would determine how much, care they need. Some might only need maybe 3 or 4 hours a day. Some might need extensive care when they may need 24-hour supervision. So there are different complexities there. And this is where these agencies get involved, because some might involve or might need a registered nurse, a visiting nurse, or someone might need a visiting doctor. So there are different levels of that care, and these different agencies offer those various services and can offer it based on the complexity or the requirement of the individual.
Well, that's good to know, because that's a little more comforting to be able to know there's other alternatives. And when we were talking about 1-bedroom assisted living, the price, explain that, because that's astronomical.
Yes, right now, the national average for a nursing home room is roughly about $330 per day.
Per day?
Per day. And that equates to roughly about $10,000 per month. So we're talking about substantial costs. And what I find in my interaction with many clients on a daily basis, their children, as a result, no one is really taking the initiative to do their proper due diligence and their proper pre-planning when it comes to these type of costs. The fact of the matter is, all of us are focusing on retirement. Everyone is focusing on their 401k, putting away a substantial savings so they could have a nice nest egg during retirement. Okay? But one thing that what I find that people are not looking into is the aspect of long-term care. Because the fact of the matter is, the expenses of long-term care can totally devour a retirement nest egg. As I just told you, 5 years of care at $10,000 per month, that's $600,000. So you're talking about depleting one's retirement account very quickly. So what I try to do in terms of me dealing with clients is we try to plan for those expenses, and we strategically plan and see what we can do to have a plan of action to pay for these costs.
See, that's smart, because prevention rather than cure can lead to a lot of less stress and worry. And I think a lot of people, even now, since we started the show, they're saying, Di, there's such a need for what you guys are doing, because no one understands this. And then it's too late. And what I think is sad, that if they could prevent this, and you have ways of doing this, then this needs to be addressed. Am I right?
Absolutely, without question. And once again, the lines are open. Callers, please call in. We welcome your phone calls. I want to reach out and address any concerns or questions one might have. That call-in number again, 973-267-9687. Yes, getting back to what you were saying, Dianne, the costs are astronomical. When we're speaking about when we're speaking about home health aid assistance, normally, we're finding one that maybe one doesn't need certain complexities there in terms of in-depth supervision. Maybe they just need assistance with their personal needs, maybe running errands, doing little things, doing little chores. Because what I find in my experience when I'm sitting down with many clients, if they have a disabling condition or chronic condition, they need assistance. And sometimes the family members are not there. They're working. Okay. So next thing you know, once again, you're looking at high costs, because of course the families want to make sure that their family member is taken care of, but of course, they're working their 9-to-5 jobs. All of us don't have the complexity or flexibility to have that time afforded to them to take care of their loved ones. So we have to, take advantage of getting involved with a home health aid person. And
that brings a really good point, because if, let's say, they only need a certain amount of leveling and they haven't come to the extreme point yet, but even when you think about how much it costs for house cleaning, dressing, bathing, food preparation, because if they can't even use their arms or their legs, anymore, or they're in a wheelchair, or they're in a walker, or any of those things, can you explain, approximately what that might cost? Because that's serious. That's not even on top of being in a home, correct?
Well, definitely. Just to really go over some of the costs, associated with these long-term care services. Number one, we have home health aid assistance, and as I mentioned to you before, that's $19 to $38 per month. The average cost of assisted living facility is roughly running about $3,900 per month. Okay, so that is substantial. And then I've had clients come and say to me, Theodore, what would be the advantage of my loved one going into assisted living facility as opposed to them staying at home? Well, number one, you may not have the flexibility in terms of your work schedule to assist your loved one. And number two, to be very flat out honest about the whole thing, if you're doing that type of care individually at the home, It can also get expensive. Being the fact that if you're bringing someone from the outside, they're coming in, depending on the severity of the circumstances and the severity of the assistance that individual might need, they may bring in up a private individual. So it can be, it can get costly. So sometimes we try to minimize that cost by maybe pursuing assisted living, and people are definitely, their breath are taken away in terms of the cost, but sometimes it might be in your best interest monetarily and as well as for the benefit of their loved one. What I'd like to also touch on is the cost of a nursing home. As I said to you before, the national average for a nursing home right now is anywhere between $10,000 to $12,000
a month.
Per month. So that's, as I said, that's $120,000 or $145,000 per year. The average individual is not generating that type of income either from Social Security or pension.
Right.
So as I said before, as a result, they are forced to rely on their retirement accounts and their savings. Something that we as a whole have ingrained in our psyche and our mental to, let's see, well, I need to put away, I need to maximize our 401k. You want to maximize that 10% of your income and put it in the 401k. We want to maximize the fact that our employer may be matching our contribution. We want to put away. We're always focused about putting away. And yes, I'm 100% with you. It's very important because we work very hard. We want to live a life of abundance and relaxation, stress-free. But the very fact is, in my experience, we are not focusing on an expense that could literally devastate and devour our retirement savings. Literally. Okay?
So do you have a solution for that if they had a chance to sit down with you and go over some of these things? Because, I think most people are overwhelmed, they're stressed, they're worried. The actual person that needs the care is completely torn, and then the family's torn, and then they get stressed and worry. So do you have solutions if they sat down, like you were talking about putting in the money for different 401ks and various things?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Each client individually is looked at on an individual basis. So it's not a one size fits all or not a one solution fits all. And callers, audience, the lines are open.
Yes, they are.
Please call in. That number so you can call in is 973-267-9687. And it seems to me that we have a caller.
Yes, we have a caller on the line, Lysandra from Passaic.
Okay. Yes, good evening.
Yes, hello.
Good evening. Lysandra, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm glad that you had called in. And how may I help you? What is your question, Lysandra? What is your question?
So, I was calling in actually to ask about my grandmother, see what programs are available for her. So she's actually living by herself currently, and I want to know what we can do about assistance at home.
Okay, very good question. If I may ask you, how old is your grandmother?
Yes, so she's actually 80.
Okay, very good. Yes. And is she having any mobility issues?
Well, she uses a walker to move around the house, mostly. Okay,
so there is some limitations there. And if I may ask you, is she, because I'm trying to assess the situation, is she currently married? Is she married now?
Well, she is a widow, actually. Her husband passed away a year ago.
Okay, sorry to hear that. I'm very sorry to hear that. And just by chance, was he a veteran? Was he in the military?
Yes, he did serve in the military for some years.
Okay. Well, all right. So that definitely helps. There are programs through the Veterans Department that would allow assistance to your grandmother as the fact that she was the widow of a veteran. I think first and foremost, we would have to determine when your grandfather served. And my first suggestion would be to access what they call a DD-214. That DD-214 is discharge paperwork. On that discharge paperwork, it would say his state, the date in which he served, and if he served during 90 days in service and 1 day during a period of war. And war period meaning Vietnam, the Korean War, World War I, World War II, the Persian Gulf. If he served at least 1 day during your grandmother would be entitled to what they call death pension. And there's a component to that called death pension aid and attendance. Okay. Now, death pension for the year of 2018, that is a monthly amount of $735. Now, being the fact that you mentioned your grandmother does have some mobility issues, so as a result, she's probably, she needs some assistance with her, activities of daily living. There is a component to that veteran's entitlement that would give your grandmother a benefit of $1,176 per month that she would be able to use to assist her with her care at home. So that's definitely you know, Lysandra, you definitely want to make note of that. I mean, that is a substantial amount of money that would be afforded to her each month. As I said before, $735 per month for the death pension, for the assistance, aid and attendance component, which would assist her with activities of daily living. And when I speak about activities of daily living, I'm speaking about dressing, eating, getting in and out of bed, toileting, things of that nature. That would, if she requires assistance with those activities, she would be entitled to that. But one also thing, what I want to mention to you, that might be of assistance, when you asked about, assistance at home, in the state of New Jersey, they have a program called the JACC program. That's JACC, and that acronym stands for Jersey Assistance to Community Caregiving. And I know your question was about assistance in the home.
Yeah, looking for like chores and laundry and cleaning around the house.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, that state program, and the reason why I'm mentioning the state program to you, because it's one way you do not have to go out and establish, and we just mentioned earlier in the show about having a home health aide. That is something that your grandmother would need, but this program that I was speaking about, called the JACC program, is a state program that is based upon the income, but if her income does not exceed $40,000 per year, she would be able to apply for that benefit, and they would give her assistance in the home to assist her with those chores you had mentioned, eating, straightening up around the house, dressing, food preparation, things of that nature. They would afford her several hours per week. It's not an abundant amount of time, but the state will, through that program, that JACC program, they will allow her to get a certain amount of hours per week to assist with those chores.
Okay. So I also have a follow-up question, something else.
Lysandra, I'm sorry, we're losing you, darling. If you could just speak a little clearer into your phone, because your questions are so well asked, and we don't want to miss any of it.
Okay, no problem. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go right ahead.
Yes? Okay. So you did mention something about a form it would be for my grandfather, my grandma's husband.
Yes.
So that form would determine whether it would be applicable to him, like if he served in a period of war? Yes.
Yeah, that form I gave you is called the DD-214. And basically it's a veteran's form that really states it's called his discharge paperwork. And that paperwork will identify when he served. And then, as I said before, if your grandfather had 90 days in service, whether it be, I know you'd mentioned the military, whether it be Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, if he served at least 90 days in service and 1 day, and when I mentioned that 1 day, it's not that he had to physically be in war himself. He just has to serve during that time period. As long as he serves 1 day during a period of war, your grandmother would be eligible for the benefit based on her husband's service.
That's incredible.
Yes, and definitely I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our veterans, our United States veterans out there. We want to thank you for your service. We don't focus. Well, the fact of the matter is, we take a lot of pride in our veterans. I come across them in my daily experience. And they are afforded certain entitlements because of their service, and rightfully so. So we've taken the approach in terms of honoring our veterans, making them aware of their certain entitlements that is not advertised. But I definitely want to take the opportunity to thank all of the veterans for their service. And if there are any questions you might have, without question, definitely I welcome you to call in. That number again, 973-267-9687. And yes, Lysandra, in regards to that, is any other questions, or are you?
No, that would be it. I actually really thank you now that I'm aware that, it is possible for my grandma to get some help at home, which would be great. And not only that, but I also now know about the veteran benefits, which I didn't really know that she would be entitled to any, because she wasn't the one who served.
Yes,
but
yes.
Now I know that she is entitled.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let me tell you the truth. The fact of the matter is that a lot of people are not aware of these veteran entitlements. And even though I mentioned the JACK program to you, the state program, that program, a lot of people are not familiar with that as well. But once again, but thank you for your call, Lysandra.
Yes, Lysandra, thank you for that. And I think with all our listeners, Theo, do you believe that by them coming in to see you about these particular issues, as well as the other issues that are definitely needing to be addressed and find new ways to protect them through the rest of their life?
Yes.
Would you say?
Absolutely. I definitely welcome anyone to, give our office a call. If you'd like to sit with me one-on-one, I welcome to sit down with you individually. That number at the office, if you'd like to sit with me face-to-face, that number is 201-342-3300. Once again, that number is 201-342-3300. And ladies and gentlemen, the lines are open. Please, we welcome your calls. That number, 973-267-9687. You are listening to the 65th Hour with Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions.
We have another email, and I thought this was a really good question for you. They said, yes, we have just enough time, I think, to answer this. If we have to continue after the break, then we'll do that. But they'd heard that when someone goes into a nursing home, you have to protect the house. Is it true? And if so, what does protecting the house really mean?
Well, definitely. The fact of the matter is that is a common concern in terms of the protecting the home. The fact of the matter is the home, when dealing with applying for government assistance through the Medicaid program, there are certain things called countable assets and non-countable. The primary residence is not countable initially. But the fact of the matter is, if the state or government assistance is given, at some point, the state will attach what they call a TEF lien. And that is a lien that they put on the residents to recoup the money that the government comes out of pocket to assist. So that being said, yes, the house is not countable initially, but when one does receive approval from Medicaid, then they would need to protect the home.
Theo, we're going to have to take a break at this time, and we've got another call coming in. So after the break, we'd love for you to take the call and then take a moment to finish answering that question, because that's very powerful, and I think you're going to help a lot of people listening here tonight. Thank you all. We'll be back. Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and just worry about the next phase of your life? Well, worry no more. At Federal National Funding, we are a group of top professional elder care advisors here to meet all of your financial and insurance needs, such as paying your bills, Medicare options turning 65, caretaking for seniors, little-known benefits for senior veterans, home, car, mortgage, and life insurance needs, Medicaid planning, final stage planning for you and your loved ones, and so much more. At FNF, we are not a government agency, but we do specialize in government programs. If you are interested to learn more about how we can help and educate you, please call now for your free face-to-face consultation at 201-342-3300. To tell your story, visit our online website at federalnationalfunding.com. At Federal National First is our priority. That's 201-342-3300.
You've probably heard lots of windows and door companies claiming to be the best. But the truth is, the best windows and doors are the ones that are right for you and your home. Vinyl, wood, fiberglass, double-hung casement awning. The choices can be daunting. So why not make things easier by scheduling a free in-home consultation with Pella Windows and Doors? With Pella Windows and Doors, you get an amazing selection of home window styles and shapes, so you can find the perfect complement to your home. And with 8 product lines to choose from, there's a price point for every home. Now through September 13th, get 40% off qualifying installations and no money down, no payments, no interest for 12 months on energy-efficient Pella products. And the best part is, they can be installed in as little as a day with little to no disruption to your home, so you can enjoy great comfort for years to come. It's that easy. Gain more and save more with the Pella Showroom. Just schedule your free in-home consultation. Call 877-98-PELLA. That's 877-987-3552. Find Pella online at PellaNJNY.com or stop by your local Parsippany showroom today. Offer ends September 13th.
Broadcasting live from the Hilltop Nissan Studios. Classic Oldies, WMTR Morristown, a Beasley Media Group station.
Yes, thank you. We are back.
We are back,
Yes,
Theo.
you are listening to the 65th hour here on WMTR 1250 AM.
Well, it's exciting because half hour went flying by because there's so much incredible information that you are giving to our listeners. We had some questions that were not answered in the first half, and we'll try to get back to that. But right now, we have John from Teaneck, and he had a question. How does one pay for long-term care?
Yes, John, how are you doing today? Yes, John, are you there? John, are you there?
I think we might have lost John. So until we can get John back, Let's continue that question from before. I think that was exceptionally important, and I'm just going to refresh our listeners. When there was an email that came into us, and they had heard that when someone goes into a nursing home, you have to protect the house. And is it true? And if so, what does protecting the house really mean? Does that mean they take all your assets?
Yes, hello, excuse me, was it John, are you there? We had lost you. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, thanks. And by the way, I'm really enjoying the show.
Okay, beautiful. Glad to hear it. Yes, and what is your question, John? How may I help you?
So my father's approaching age 80, and I'm just wondering, from what I understand, long-term care can be as much as $10,000 to $12,000 a month. How does one pay for long-term care? That's a lot of money.
No, without question, and a very good question. Yes, definitely, very, very expensive. There are 3 methods to pay for long-term care. Okay, one being private pay. And private pay is exactly what it is. It's actually you paying out of your pocket, whether it be your checking account, your savings account, your retirement account, things of that nature. So that's one method. The second method, and mind you, the self-pay is the most expensive method of paying for long-term care. And I'm going to explain that to you shortly why I said that. The second method for paying long-term care is by way of long-term care insurance. And what this is, you're actually insuring your assets. So you're insuring your money. So same concept in regards to life insurance. You're paying a premium per month. God forbid if anything happens, that, your final costs or your final expenses are taken care of. Same situation with the long-term care. You are paying a monthly premium. God forbid if you do need assistance later on, your father needs assistance, being 80 years old and needs some assistance, that's where the long-term care insurance would come into play in terms of picking up and help pay for those expenses. The third method, and is the most the one that has the most misconceptions and, of course, is the most cost-effective, is government assistance by way of Medicaid. Okay? There are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to government assistance. Everybody's always sees Medicaid. They look at it as you have to be impoverished, but there are actually two types of Medicaid. One being the Medicaid insurance, which is the medical insurance if you have a disability or you have very low income. There is also a Medicaid program called the Medicaid long-term care. A lot of people are not familiar with that. That will allow one to have assets. You don't necessarily have to be impoverished or a certain amount of assets to get Medicaid long-term care. As a matter of fact, by the way, John, if I may ask you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you mentioned your father. Is he married?
He's widowed.
Oh, he's widowed. Okay. Well, what I was going to say is that there's a little bit more flexibility for a married person to become Medicaid eligible, which a lot of people, and of course in the future show, we're going to go more into depth on this, because the fact of the matter is, government assistance by way of the Medicaid program, 75% of the long-term care costs in this country is paid through Medicaid. Okay, 75%. So the fact of the matter is, what the objective when it comes to Medicaid is, the objective is to safeguard your father's assets and then hopefully achieve, well, the primary objective would be to achieve Medicaid eligibility. So once again, we would want to protect his assets and, if need be, reposition and restructure his assets in order to comply with the guidelines for Medicaid eligibility. But to answer your question, John, there are three ways, just to review that. One is self-pay, the most effective. That's actually coming out of your pocket, coming out of your father's pocket. The most expensive, $10,000 a month. From his pension or his Social Security. The second method is long-term care insurance. One thing about that is definitely if you take the initiative in terms of planning in his youth, it's a little bit more reasonable in terms of expense. And then also, too, which is people are not aware of, with long-term care insurance, you have to be in good health to get it. So not everyone can get it. Aside from the fact that if you wait for a very long period of time, it could be very expensive. But second of all,
what's some of those costs with that? Like if you said you have to be younger, what's the best age to really look into this? Because I'm sure a lot of the children of our seniors are listening in, and that's, I think, a big concern with people. They say, well, how old should I get this, and when does it make sense, and does it cover other areas, like not just the place that you're going to stay? Because I know they have the food is covered and various things, but what other outside pocket, concerns do you have there? Because that's huge.
Yes, it is very huge. The cost is very extensive, and as I said before, the ideal age would be anywhere in your 40s or your 50s. Oh, wow. What I find in my experience is that a lot of employers, I guess they're noticing what effect this can have on their bottom line, being the fact that some of their employees are forced to leave their job to take care of their parents. So some of them, in my experience, not all, but some of them are implementing a type of group plan where one could get that type of assistance in a more inexpensive, like some employers have group life insurance. I find it's not common, but some employers are taking the initiative and establishing some type of employer-sponsored program to assist. And without question, you definitely need to get involved with that. Without question. Just the aggressive way you are pursuing saving for retirement through the 401k, take that same aggressiveness and do, proper prudent behavior and save towards long-term care.
Can they meet with you?
Without question. They can meet with me, call me, the office line, 201-342-3300. Audience, the lines are open. I welcome your calls. I thank you, John, for your call and your question.
Mr. Tracey, can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
Because I was rummaging through my father's paperwork, and I noticed that he does have a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. How would that play into things?
Yes, well, definitely. I mean, that was a very prudent decision on his part.
Wow.
Some of these life insurance policies, as well as annuities, some of them have riders because of the need. I mean, these companies are now seeing the great need and the great cost, and they're taking an approach to establish certain riders, like what your father has with his insurance, and certain riders through annuity. And it's very positive, because what it is if he should have problems with activities of daily living, or he needs that type of assistance, and he, for a certain time period, that rider would kick in to assist him. And let me tell you the benefits with that. Number one, it's assisting with the payment of that cost. That's number one. Okay. Number two, what in essence is doing is assisting with the cost, but it is also allowing you time to reposition your assets to qualify for government assistance. So as opposed to someone that does not have long-term care insurance or the insurance policy that your father has with the rider, they would be forced to come out of pocket for the full cost. So because your father has that rider, it would allow him to take care of those costs, but in the same time period, it would allow him to reposition his assets. So, for instance, if your father came to sit with me and talk to me, we would definitely utilize the benefit through his insurance policy to pay for the care right now. But in addition to that, in tandem, while we're paying for his assistance right now, we are going to sit down and restructure and reposition his assets and protect his assets for you and his family in order to pay for those costs.
Okay, I gotcha.
Does that help you, John, in relation? Because I think it's unbelievably important information. And with each of our listener here tonight, we really hope this is helping you for your future, because there's such, people are living so long these days. The more information they have, the happier they can be, less stress and worry about all these things. And I think with Theo, if you call into the office at 201-342-3300 and set up, we will give you also a free face-to-face with him. So this way all your questions can be answered. Because I think in this space that we have, and we have a limited amount of time, and I know Theo knows that too, and that's why we're trying to answer as many questions as we can. So we thank you, John. Was there anything else?
No, I'm good. That was very informative. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, John, for your call. Thank you for your call. And if I could ever be of assistance in the future, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Ladies and gentlemen,
I jotted your number down. I'm going to call you tomorrow.
Beautiful. Look forward to hearing from you, John. I would look forward to hearing from you. Caller, audience, the lines are open. You are listening to the 65th Hour with Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions. The lines are open. The number to call in, 973-267-9687.
Okay, Theo, another email. This was an interesting one, along the same idea of what we're discussing tonight. Is the long-term care insurance really necessary? Now, I know you touched on it, But how beneficial? Like, let's say if they are paying per month for that as opposed to $140,000 a year, what kind of ratio is that? Because with everything else everyone has to pay for on a daily basis. Can you explain that in a little more detail, please?
Yes. The fact of the matter, and thank you for your email. The fact of the matter, the long-term care insurance is looked upon. A lot of people look at long-term care insurance like term insurance, term life insurance. And term life insurance is only for a specific time period, whether it be a 10-year term, 20-year term, or 30-year term. There's no cash value with term life insurance. So a lot of people look at it as term life, like I don't really need it. But the fact of the matter is, if you can afford it and if you have made the decision to implement a policy in your younger years where it is more affordable, and also that the fact that you're in good health and you can attain that type of coverage, I highly recommend it. I definitely highly recommend long-term care insurance because, as I said before, there are only 3 ways to pay for long-term care. Private pay, long-term care insurance, where you're actually insuring your assets. You're basically insuring your money. And so you're making sure that expense is taken care of. But do I believe it's necessary? Without question. Without question. If you have the funds, the resources, and you have taken the initiative to establish it early on in life, and I'm not saying don't look into it in the latter part of your life, but I'm just saying, though, if you decide to do that, don't be surprised at, they call it sticker shock, because the price could be expensive. I mean, it could be, $2,000, $3,000, that type of numbers in terms of it can get very expensive if you wait into the latter years. But that's why I highly recommend, if you're looking to pursue long-term care insurance, you're basically, for the children of the parents, look at the, age 40, age 50. If they do offer it in your through your employer, without question, do that.
And that brings me to a very important point. So when these people who come and sit down with you, and once again, listeners, you can call them at 201-342-3300. And for those who just turned in, you are listening to WMTR 973-267-9687. And we are going to be here every Monday. This is Theodore Tracey, the voice for Senior Solutions. And this is the 65th hour. And we did have one other question that I think is pertaining to our theme for tonight. Does Medicaid require you to be poor?
Yes, very good question. Very good question. There are a lot of misconceptions about that. As I said before, there are 2 types of Medicaid. There is one, the Medicaid insurance for those that have a disability and a very, very low income. And then you also have the Medicaid long-term care. Now, everyone knows that normally, if you're an individual, your assets have to be below $2,000, which is fact, which is true. If they happen to be married, there's a little bit more flexibility there because you do not need to be poor. If you happen to be a married couple in the state of New Jersey, you are allowed to have up to $123,600. So you do not have to be poor. There are people that would be considered a millionaire that also could qualify for Medicaid. So it really comes down to...
Please explain more about that one.
It's a lot of misconceptions. So you can be a millionaire and still qualify for government assistance. And the fact of the matter is, and that's where the restructuring, repositioning of one's assets to comply with the guidelines. That's where I come into play in terms of sitting down with a particular family, assessing their situation, assessing their resources, and recommending certain strategies to protect their assets for their family, and comply with Medicaid. But yes, no, you do not have to be poor to get assistance. And just to reiterate what I was speaking about earlier, the fact of the matter is 75% of the long-term care expenses in this country are paid by Medicaid.
I did not know that.
Okay.
A lot of people did not know that.
Yes, and really the questions we have to ask ourselves, and the reason why that is, normally one waits until they deplete their assets to become eligible for government assistance. So you're actually what they call paying down. So if you have a $500,000 retirement account, you are paying down that $500,000 retirement account to the facility before you become Medicaid eligible. So we don't want to do that.
So you have ways to protect them with this.
Absolutely. We don't want to wait until you spend down that $500,000 account before we want to leave a legacy. I'm sure our listeners want to leave a legacy for their family. So what we're doing is we're sitting down with you, we're assessing your situation, we're making recommendations in terms of strategies on repositioning your assets, protecting your assets for the family as well as your loved ones. So that's something, and as I definitely welcome you to give me a call if anyone has any questions in terms of their Medicaid eligibility or in terms of assistance with their long-term care needs. Because as I said before, some of these programs are not being advertised. The one that I just brought to you called the JACC program, that acronym stands for Jersey Assistance to Community Caregiving. If your income does not exceed $40,000 per year, you can get that assistance without encumbering an expense.
Now, see, I think you've hit on a really important point, because when you were talking about what is Medicaid planning and what are we doing with that, there's the strategic complying with guidelines for government assistance. Now, they hear that, but you would be, when they sit down with you, be able to describe that in detail and see what's best for them.
Absolutely.
And their family, because then maybe it's really important, and you would know best, for the family to come in so that everybody understands, like you just said, 40 to 50 to have some long-term care for themselves, too.
No, I would recommend age 40 to 50 to look into establishing for themselves,
right,
and not waiting to the latter years to do it.
Okay.
Because as we said before, the main objective, and want our listeners to realize, you do not want to wait until you are in crisis mode. What I mean by crisis mode is when your loved one is in a facility, and as a result of that, they are paying that $10,000 a month or $12,000 a month, and definitely the cost can be higher depending on the level of care, because you have to factor in medications, you have to factor in if they're suffering with Alzheimer's, you have to factor in if certain health conditions, diabetes, type 2, things of that nature, cancer, stroke. So all of these things, you do not want to wait until an occurrence happens in one's life, because then you are limited in regards to your options. I often say, don't wait until you are in crisis mode. Look into the pre-planning mode, and whereas you're taking the initiative saying, God forbid if my family member does need assistance, how am I going to pay that? Am I going to wait until my father, my mother, my grandparents deplete all their resources, or am I going to take the initiative, because I'm pretty much sure, and I'm very sure about that your parents or your loved ones want to have their assets go to their children or the family, God forbid if something happens to them, as opposed to spending it on long-term care expenses.
So that means do smart care, smart money, as opposed to crisis mode and crisis money, where no one can have quality life after that, because that's all they're concerned with. That's both the elder as well as the parents and whoever else is the caretaker. Am I right? Absolutely.
People are, when I'm speaking give you an example of crisis mode. In my experience, I have a family, I met with a couple. The husband was needing some assistance. And as a result of that, he had an equity line of credit against his home. The home was pretty much paid off, but in order to help him with those costs, he took out an equity line of credit against his home. Now, you may want to ask, is that a prudent decision? I don't think so, because what you're doing is you're putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound.
Wow.
So that Band-Aid can't hold that gushing wound, am I correct? You want to put a large bandage on it. You don't want to have a little Band-Aid. So in that particular case with that individual, he took out an equity line of credit against his home, and feeling that, that would assist him to pay for the cost. But as I said before, you're putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound because you're depleting that equity line of credit. And of course, you're using that equity line of credit to help pay for those costs. But guess what? You have to pay that back. you know, that needs to be paid back.
Right, and I think most people forget that, you know, the older they get, and then they need that money, but then they don't have it because they didn't take care of things sooner than later. Is that correct?
That is correct. And the fact of the matter is, and the reason why one would pursue an equity line of credit against their home is because of lack of knowledge and because they felt they were in a crisis mode position and they did not do the proper due diligence in terms of seeking out certain alternate methods of paying for that type of care.
And you do have all those different ways to help them.
Without question. I welcome people to come in and see me one-on-one, face-to-face. My office number, just to repeat that, is 201-342-3300. You are listening to the 65th Hour here with myself, Theodore Tracey, at WMTR 1250 AM every Monday evening from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. And I welcome the call-ins. I encourage you callers to call in with your questions. Give us an email at info@federalnationalfunding.com. Contact us with your emails if you do not want to call in. But we welcome you we want it to be an interactive experience. We want to address your questions and concerns, and hopefully that your questions might be a question of another one. So you're assisting someone else that is listening in. So I welcome those calls. And once again, it is a pleasure speaking to all of you. And it has been a great pleasure speaking to all of you who have just tuned in to listen here tonight. For those of you who have just tuned in, you are listening to the 65th Hour Mondays with Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions. Every Monday night right here at WMTR 1250 AM. The lines are open for questions. That call-in number 973-267-9687. Over the course of the show, we will be covering and discussing a number of very valuable and beneficial topics to help you ease your stress and worry concerning and relating to health insurance needs and financial issues. We will also bring on experts on each topic we will be discussing each week. Next week's topic will be little known benefits for senior veterans. These talks are good for seniors, senior veterans, and all their children, relatives, and friends. We welcome you to share the word to all those you think can benefit from these exceptionally important discussions. And each week we will also open up the lines where you can call in to express your concerns and questions about the topic being discussed each week. That call-in number again, 973-267-9687. We will pick the questions from our listeners that can best serve all concerned in these matters. And you have been listening to the voice of Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions, where I'll be speaking right here on WMTR 1250 AM every Monday night, live at 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Until next week, my friends, stay strong, healthy, happy, and well-informed. And I'd like to thank my producer, Dianne Wesley, and I thank all of you callers for calling in with your calls, and have a wonderful evening.
We cannot wait to see you next week. Tell your friends. Make sure you set up your appointment because they're getting filled. We'd love to keep seeing more people being educated. Thank you so much. Thank you, Theo.
My pleasure. Thank you. Have a great evening.